Good evening. I will now call this meeting Monday, December 17th to order. We will have the invocation tonight with Bishop Charlie Williams from the House of God Pentecostal Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilman McCormick. Would you all please stand with me tonight?
Shall we pray? Father in heaven, in Jesus' name, we come before that throne of grace, that throne of mercy, with bowed heads and humble hearts. We come before you, Lord, seeking your presence in the building, that I will bless and look on the commissioners tonight, those that are newly elected and those that are on the board, that you will lead them and you will guide them and direct them in the business at hand. You said in all our ways we must acknowledge you, and you shall direct our paths. Lead them and guide them and direct them, Lord, that the decision that is made will be a help to our community and it will be prosperous for our citizens of Homestead, Florida, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in pledging our nation's flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bell?
Here.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Here.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Here.
Councilman McCormick?
Here.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Here.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Thank you. Under special presentations, we have MacArthur Senior High School presentation. Are they canceled?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't we receive an email saying that MacArthur was not going to be able to do a presentation tonight?
Thank you. Been out all day. Plaque presentation to Jose Fuentes. Good evening. Jose Fuentes was director of the Miami-Dade Regional Service Center, South Florida Water Management District from 1999 to 2007. In his professional capacity, he has served as a member of the Miami-Dade County Biscayne Buffer Committee, City of Miami Green Commission, South Miami-Dade Watershed Study and Advisory Member, Miami-Dade Global Climate Warming Task Force. Many organizations have benefited from his civic and community involvement, from both county and city organizations to local organizations as well. Mr. Fuentes has been recognized for his dedication and devotion to public service by several communities, civic and elected officials. He was recently honored by the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce 11th Annual Sunshine Awards as Public Official of the Year for his dedication and public service to South Florida. The City of Homestead has benefited from his involvement in many projects that have impacted our community. Jose Fuentes is a man who is dedicated to his profession and a person that the City of Homestead recognizes as a loyal and caring individual, and we are delighted tonight to honor Mr. Fuentes. We have a certificate of appreciation for Mr. Fuentes tonight. We actually had a plaque, but there's a little mishap with that. So tonight we'll be presenting him with a certificate of appreciation until his plaque arrives. Your friendship and concern for our community will be deeply missed. We wish you continued success in your future endeavors. Presented the 17th day of December 2007, the City of Homestead. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have a microphone, so I have to say something. I really want to say thank you to the City of Homestead. It has been a pleasure for me to work with this elected board and now the new members, and of course Mayor Bell and many of the commissioners who are sitting there, and they've been great friends. And I can tell you that as a director of the Water Management District, it has been easy to work with the City of Homestead. You've got such a professional staff between Kurt Ivey, your manager, and your assistant manager, Mike Shivita. It makes it easy for us to do good for the community, and we've done a lot of good together. And hopefully in my new role, we can continue to do that. So thank you very much. I'm really humbled by this. Thank you. Mr.
Shahada has a few words.
Hello everybody. I met Jose about 10 years ago, and I can tell you without any doubt, Jose used to work for Water Management District. From the first time I met him and we had issues, he gave me his cellular phone number. I called him sometimes at 9, at 10 o'clock at night. Every single time I called him, he answered his phone call, and was always there to help. I can tell you, there's lots of people who give bad name to government, but Jose Fuentes is a person who really lives a true example of how public servants should be. And I'm really proud to say to Jose, you are my friend, and I wish him the best of luck in his new endeavor.
Thank you very much. This was a very long, we were just in about a 2-hour executive session, so we need this coffee. Next, presentation to the 2007 Jingle Bell Jaunt Volunteers, Councilwoman Waldman. It's ready now.
Robin, are you here to help me? Don't you sit down. This is Robin, and she's with the Regency, right? Regency, and of course Captain Bo. There he is. Just recently, just 2 weeks ago, we did, I don't know, our 6th annual probably Jingle Bell Jaunt that we started when I first came on council, and we do this with our horse lovers, the people who are my friends, and we have a lot of volunteers out there. We collected over $100 presents, over 200 in the villages of Homestead. So it's always my honor to participate. This year I had a reaction to the hay. I'm sitting beside Robin, I'm going, I'm itching, Robin. I don't know what's wrong. And the next morning my eyes were completely swollen shut. So whatever hay it was in that trailer, I'll take an allergy pill. It's okay. But I just wanted to recognize some of the people. And just so you know, the horses, the trail riders, they actually dress the horses up. And the horses are in costume, and the rider matches the horse. Did I say that right? Right. Okay. And I mean, it's so cool, and all the kids, they look forward to it every year. And we have a huge trailer that we send, and we gather all the gifts as the kids bring them out of the house, and it's just a joy. It's a nice way to start our season. It usually starts in the first week of December, so it's just a joy to do. But I'd like to name some names. I have some plaques, Robin, if you'll help me. I think they're in alphabetical order.
These are the 4 people that are here at Wayne.
Okay. How about the costume people in here? Okay, well then I'll just skip right down to the nitty-gritty. Carrie and Wayne Hirschberger, they are the contact people, the event coordinator and sponsor, and they just do everything. He was our photographer this year.
Wayne is also the president of the club.
There you go. I'm going to give him a chance to talk here in just 1 second. That way he can tell you all about it. And I'm now an official member of the club. I just haven't sent my application in. But anyway, Jackie and Peter Shaw, and that's who I can say I loved. Your hay didn't love me, but I love your horse. What's your horse's name? Reggae. And they also supplied a wagon, and Peter drove their Land Rover and towed us. And so he was a wonderful asset. And these people do this year after year after year. Wendy Wendy Lewitt, she contributed gift certificates from OK and Robbie's Feed Store. She also had, she also participated in the years before, but this year she decided to join us. So she was so cute. She's still dressed up. She couldn't help herself, but we couldn't vote on her this year. So I have some certificates I'd like to give out, and I have a lot more for you to take with you. And if you just want to pass those out, and why don't you come forward, Mr. President, and talk about your organization.
Well, South Florida Trail Riders we're celebrating our 30th year this year as a club, and we have this is the 11th year that we have been doing a Jingle Bell Jaunt. I think this is the 5th year we've been doing it in Homestead, and we just enjoy getting out with our horses and decorating them in the holiday spirit, and also raising toys for the children of Homestead. And we do a lot of community service projects, and we do benefit rides for different organizations, and we just enjoy helping our community, and we're out there enjoying our horses, and we'd love to keep more green spaces open for horses. And we appreciate very much the help that Judy and Captain Bo and Robin. They help us a great deal in getting this Jingle Bell Jaunt underway and progressing through the villages of Homestead, and we enjoy their friendship and their help.
Good evening, everyone. As was already said, over 200 toys between the organization themselves and the residents in the villages of Homestead. This is something we've been doing for over 10 years. As far as the police department through Project SOS, we always do a toy drive. We probably hit you up on a highway. We call it highway holdup. It works pretty well when you're in uniform and a gun. It seems to help make collection go a little easier. This year we raised, and through organizations, Little Angels Foundation very generously donated $1,500. Kiwanis of Homestead South Bay donated money. Walmart donated money. And then, of course, all the good citizens of Homestead and people passing through, we were able to collect $5,376.93 this year. And out of that, we'll be servicing over 200 children doing the toy giveaway this Thursday down at FICA Williams Center. Thank you.
Again, I just want to say thank you so much, and I look forward to it again next year. So if we could just get a quick picture. Santa was on his way, but he got delayed, so. There you go.
The amount of police here.
Appreciate your honesty. I appreciate something. He's tapping his Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the Homestead Historic Downtown District listing on the National Register of Historic Places announcement, and we have the Historic Preservation Board before us. Good evening, Safia. Good evening, Yvonne.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm Safia Belair, the Historic Landmark Officer, and it's my pleasure tonight to be with Chairwoman Yvonne Knowles of the Historic Preservation Board to announce that our Downtown Historic District has been listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This was a project with a lot of challenges, 5 years in the making, and I really thank and appreciate the help of Ms. Yvonne Knowles to see it through, who initiated the project, then from Main Street, and the Historic Board took it over. I just want to say a few words about it and then ask Yvonne for some comments before I tell you what the incentives are that this brings. The district is significant as the hub of South Florida's early railroad pioneer expansion. And this commercial neighborhood arose due to the Florida East Coast Railway being extended south. It encompasses 11 blocks of approximately 12 acres, which is generally Chrome Avenue and Washington Avenue and a portion of Flagler Avenue. The boundaries surround the most concentrated group of historical resources associated with the development of Homestead between 1913 and 1957, and it contains 75 buildings, 63 of which are contributing, which means 50 years or older. We are going to notify all the property owners by mail. We're going to post the map and details online and discuss it more with the public at opportunities the Historic Board has. Yvonne, would you like to say a few things, please?
Thank you.
Good evening. This is a big day for Homestead Historic Preservation Board because this board worked long years on this project and never gave up, never lost heart in the fact that this could happen. So just a little brief history. This began in 2002. It was today finally complete, but at that time, then CRA Director Linda Complin requested the Main Street Design Committee conduct a survey of the downtown district, inventory the buildings, and determine whether we qualified as a historic district. That report was completed, and in 2004, the Historic Preservation Board took over the project. I would like to personally thank our CRA staff, of course, my partner in crime, Safia Belair. Without her work, it would not have been possible to complete. I would also like to thank all of the letters of support that we got. When this project went forward from Tallahassee, where I presented it in March of this year, it went to Washington, D.C. You had to have some important letters to support the nomination, and I'd like to thank, since we have his representative here in the office, in the auditorium, Mayor Carlos Alvarez wrote a very glowing letter of support, and we'd like to thank him very much. Mr. Chris Hemmel is here from Mayor Alvarez's office. So that county support really is very, very beneficial to us, and we thank you. I would also like to thank the people who are most actively involved in it, and that's the Homestead Historic Preservation Board. My Vice Chair, Larry Deal, I don't know if he's in the audience. Our board members, Susie Peterson, Dennis Ross, Doug LaRue, and our newest member on the board is Clara Waterman Powell, and she's here. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the contributions of past members. My predecessor on the board as chair was Rex Olson. He started the ball back in 2002, and we're eternally grateful to him for that. And board members who have left during the process, Randall Kaufman and our late Mr. William Martin, who was a great contribution to our board, and we miss him terribly. I thank you for your support, your resolutions that sent this application forward. I'm speaking to my board because they were the ones behind me all the way. And for bearing up with me year after year, as I optimistically said to my board, our application for historic district designation is nearing completion, and every year they'd roll their eyes and say, sure. Well, we did it, and God bless all who made it possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we're asking, what does this mean? Well, we get the federal recognition at the highest level for a historic district. We also have now eligibility for property owners within the district to apply for federal grants, and when they want to do some renovation, to apply for federal tax credits. That's with the IRS. Also, this brings, as far as the city is concerned, some involvement to help mitigate anything that might adversely affect the district, and traffic control is one of the concerns for Chrome Avenue. Under federal law, private property owners can do anything they wish with their registered listed property, provided that no federal license, permit, or funding is involved. This does not mean the Historic Board has any restrictions on your property. This is an honorarium only. So again, I want to thank Yvonne and the board, and I hope you share the celebration with us. We're very proud of it. Thank you so much. This is wonderful for the city of Homestead. Thank you. Ms. Knowles, would you please come up? We have a certificate of appreciation for Yvonne Knowles in recognition of your contribution to the City of Homestead to successfully nominate the Homestead Historic Downtown District to the National Register of Historic Places. The Mayor and Council salute you for this. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda, item E, Homestead Air Reserve Base Joint Land Use Study Presentation. We need to go down.
Good evening to the Mayor and City Council members. I'd like to first introduce myself. My name is Liz Drake. I'm a consultant with EDAW. We are a land use planning consultancy out of Atlanta, Georgia. I was the prime consultant, project manager, and general facilitator of the joint land use study, which we concluded earlier this year. This evening I'll give just a brief overview of the recommendations, recognizing that the city, as well as Miami-Dade County, is advancing into the implementation stage of this report. Go ahead and give you a bit of background on the joint land use study. First, I'll use quite a few acronyms this evening. You'll hear JLIS, that is the Joint Land Use Study. That is a community-based process. It is funded mostly by the Office of Economic Adjustment under the Department of Defense, but also receives in-kind support and funding from local participating governments like the City of Homestead. The JLIS has been conducted at dozens of military installations around the country. Its purpose is to promote more compatible land use so that development can occur without adversely affecting the military mission. That is the primary goal of the process. We began really in earnest in March of 2006. We met frequently with a policy committee. I did want to note the chair of that committee, Steve Schreiber, did want to be with us this evening, but unfortunately was delayed and cannot be here. We also did have a very active public involvement process. Over the course of about a year, from March of 2006 until March of 2007, the policy committee developed a series of recommendations which have been included in the joint land use study document, and the city has hard copies if you are interested in that. Now really to cover the basics of the report, first I'll talk a little bit about the geography. What is affected? What properties are affected? There are a series of overlapping geographic areas that are around Homestead Air Reserve Base, and they really reflect the operational impacts, which are primarily noise, but also the risk of an aircraft accident. So you will see in a map in just a moment some lines that represent high noise areas. Those are areas that are exposed to decibel levels of 65 or higher. And also the clear zones and the two accident potential zones, you will see those as boxes that extend beyond the runway, and they reflect a very low but albeit real risk of an aircraft mishap. If an accident were to occur, it would be likeliest to occur in those areas. Together, all of these lines form On the next slide, as you'll see, and I have the order just a titch off, so why don't you go ahead to the next slide. That's the bit of the background that I already covered. Collectively, all of these areas refer to the Homestead Air Reserve Base military zone. So you'll see all of these lines. That is the green contour, for example, is the noise zone that I referenced, and also the 2 accident potential zones and the clear zone. The first thing I do want to clarify about the joint land use study is that it does not recommend land use controls outside of these lines. Only the properties inside this specific military zone are affected in terms of land use controls and zoning. There are some broader recommendations, but in general we are focused just within, as we say again, another acronym, the HARBMZ, or the military zone. We'll go ahead and run through the recommendations now. I believe there are 11 of them. First, this is really about getting information out to affected property owners and other members of the community. It is a suggestion to expand the property information feature on the county's property appraiser search site to include information about this military zone that I have described. This would allow a property owner to search to see if his or her parcel is inside that military zone and what development conditions might be in effect as a result of that. And we would also encourage a similar link from the city's website to the county website, again, just to promote increased access to this information. On the next recommendation, this is an excellent program. It is a conservation-based strategy. This again has been used by dozens of military installations around the country. The Department of Defense gives money to the various branches of the military to seek out the purchase of development rights only from willing landowners on property that is environmentally sensitive and, again, would be inside the military zone. It's particularly effective because the land remains in private ownership. There is no transfer of land. The landowner continues to own the land, but he receives compensation in turn for maintaining that land in an undeveloped state, and thus there are no adverse impacts that can affect the military mission. We think there are a variety of stakeholders that could be part of a program like this. The city and county certainly could participate. The Air Force, of course. The South Florida Water Management District could have an interest in this, as well as the state of Florida. The state of Florida, by the way, has allocated millions of dollars for the purchase of development rights on environmentally sensitive lands around military installations, recognizing it's a key economic asset that has to be protected. And of course, nonprofit groups like the Nature Conservancy are also very interested in these programs. The thing to stress here, it is only for willing landowners. They're not compelled to do this, but have the opportunity to receive both compensation and tax breaks for participating in the program. Our next recommendation is the transfer of development rights, which we think also could be very effective. The purpose here is to shift growth that might be incompatible away from the military installation into other areas where more growth would in fact be good. And we're mostly talking about housing here. In general, there are fewer issues with retail or industrial uses, but housing is a particularly sensitive use. Areas in which the growth could be shifted to could include any areas within the county and jurisdictions like the city of Homestead, and particularly those areas that are designated for development or redevelopment, and that might be empowerment zones, enterprise zones, or even a transit corridor like US 1. The suggestion here as well is that the existing program under the county be slightly revised to permit by right transfer. That is, there does not have to be an approval process. It would make it easier for the developer to purchase the rights and to transfer that growth to another area. Under the next recommendation, very important to have language in the comprehensive plan about promoting compatibility around the Air Reserve Base, and so we certainly would recommend that the city, along with the county, of course, revise the existing comp plan language so that it fully complies with the requirements of the Florida Growth Management Act. Perhaps no state has been more aggressive in the country in protecting its military installations than Florida has. They have very specific guidelines about what the comprehensive plan should say about land use, communication, and coordination around military installations. And so very important from a legal perspective to have that language in the plan. It really sets the framework for zoning and other tools that are then put into place. Under the next recommendation, real estate disclosure, and this would be a mandatory disclosure process that would notify a prospective home buyer or renter that a piece of property under consideration is within that military zone that I had referenced before. The idea here again is simply communication, making people aware that if they do live in a house next to an Air Force base, there will be noise and other operational impacts. It may seem intuitive to many people, but those who are new to the area in particular may not be aware of the impacts of living next to an active and ongoing military mission. Again, the purpose just being really communication, and of course that disclosure would be recorded on the city and county tax records and also the land sales records. A similar recommendation, this has a bit more teeth though, it's a little bit like the real estate disclosure, but this is called an avigation easement, and this is a process that would require a developer only of residential uses inside the military zone that I referenced to dedicate an avigation easement, meaning essentially this is a legal waiver that establishes that the Air Force has a right to conduct its standard training activities, including overflight, the use of military aircraft over the property. That also would be recorded as an easement on subdivision plats and on city and county tax records and land sales records. So again, essentially this is the developer conceding the right to the Air Force to conduct its regular training activities. The next recommendation is on exterior lighting. Again, this would only be inside the military zone. That's the consistent theme of all of these recommendations, with a few exceptions. The recommendations for exterior lighting would also really only affect major lighting uses. This would not affect single-family homes, and the intent is also not to retrofit. This is only for new lighting applications. The suggestion is to have fully shielded fixtures that minimize the amount of light that go up into the sky, because that, of course, can affect the ability of aviators who are training at night to see. This could affect gas stations, big box retail parking lots, athletic fields, billboards, and roadways, as an example. Just a quick little aside, the Speedway has fully compliant lights as a result of cooperating with the Air Force, so this can be done. It is not a more expensive technology. In fact, in many ways, it is more energy efficient, and it allows the Air Force to continue their training activities without the undue glare or ambient light that often comes from more careless lighting practices. The next recommendation is noise attenuation. These are construction practices that reduce the amount of noise that gets inside of a building. Again, we are not suggesting retrofit. We don't think that that's really reasonable or appropriate. This is focused more on new residential construction. The idea would be, for example, construction practices like thicker walls or windows or insulation. Many of the practices really that are in fact practiced to protect against the effects of hurricanes as well. This would only be required inside those areas that have a noise exposure of 65 decibels or higher. That is a considerably high level of average noise. Studies determine that above that level, particularly people living in their homes are likely to be irritated if they are exposed to an average amount of noise at that level or higher. So that is why we identify the 65 decibel contour as the relevant geography. The city already has an ordinance that does require this, so it just has to be tweaked a little bit and revised to reflect some of the most current language on the noise contours and clarify the procedures and the affected land uses. Again, not all land uses would be affected. This is really only for noise-sensitive uses, particularly housing, schools, offices, medical facilities. Many other uses like commercial or industrial are not affected by higher noise exposure. Going to the next recommendation, this is often where the rubber meets the road. This is the recommended zoning overlay. The idea here is to establish a special zoning district, and again, it would correspond only with those lines and contours that we showed a moment ago on the previous slide. The zoning overlay would include many of the things that we have talked about, the real estate disclosure, the exterior lighting standards as well. It would also begin to control the effects of land use around the installation. The joint land use document does give a little bit of flexibility to the city and county in finding ways to comply with the compatibility guidelines that are recommended by the U.S. Air Force. At the moment, we do reference that the land use controls would be consistent with the ACUs, which is the Air Installation Compatible Use Zone document. Currently, it references 2004. I understand that we have a 2007 document that is underway. So really the idea here is to seek balance, to promote growth. This is not a no-growth plan. We want to protect private property rights and accommodate development, but control some of the effects of height, intensity, or scale that could expose people, large groups of people in particular, to the effects of noise or aircraft accident risk. Two more recommendations. This is to develop a procedure between the Air Force and the city and other communities about the placement of very tall structures, which of course could interfere with navigable airspace. Anything in excess of 200 feet, again within that military zone, and anything in excess of 500 feet, which is really very tall and unlikely to affect anything here. I don't think you've quite hit that level of growth in Homestead, but that would be within a much broader 10-mile radius, and that again is a simple notification procedure that allows the Air Force to comment on the placement to make sure it doesn't interfere with their routes for their aircraft. And the last of the recommendations, birds are actually a great hazard for military aircraft, for jets, so we do have a bird airstrike hazard that we have to consider. This suggests that there be coordination among all of the affected entities, not just the local and of course the Air Force, but even the National Park Service as well, which obviously has a bird sanctuary and many birds around the Biscayne National Park. And that really is to carefully coordinate the placement of facilities or the design of land uses that can attract a significant bird population. There is not very far away from the military installation right now a solid waste landfill which attracts a significant number of birds. That would be one example, or also stormwater facilities or artificial water bodies. So coordinating to ensure that the placement and design of these facilities don't bring more birds into the area and thus pose a risk to the aircraft that are operating nearby. I know that is a lot to absorb in just a few minutes. Those were all of the major recommendations, again, developed primarily through a pretty intensive year-long dialogue with the policy committee. It is now in its implementation stage, and I think at this point I will pause and see if there are any questions as I conclude the presentation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I'd like, Mr. Manager, would you like to address anything on the joint land use study?
Mayor and Council, this study's been going for some time now, and it has also really included a number of stakeholders, including environmental, agricultural, development, a large number of people that have sat down, given their time. We appreciate that, to put this study together and have come up with a very nice product, as well as our consultants. I have to thank them as well, and Johanna, who is the project coordinator for us for the city, who's worked very hard on this as well. In this, we're recommending that we acknowledge the completion of this particular study. We have over the years pretty much adhered to everything in the ACUs and the noise that has been brought out in the JLUs. I do, however, want to bring up one issue that we have. In 1975, we developed a Park of Commerce land, and we finally sold that. Herein lies, the Park of Commerce lies in the second half of the Accident Potential Zone 2. And that is getting ready to be developed. And I think in most cases that we're going to be able to follow this these recommendations pretty closely. But there may be some issues that come up
that are mutually exclusive for us if we're going to develop this and be able to develop it to its potential as an area. And it's disturbing, but this is the cards we're dealt here as far as where the Park of Commerce is located. And I think mainly these things will happen, one, in the number of people per acre. There's going to be some conflict there, I think. And also, what's the second one? Oh, the coverage, the density. We had 40% in the Park of Commerce. So if somebody buys an acre, they can build on 40% of that acreage. I believe the military would like to see 20% coverage. Herein, we've got a couple of mutually exclusive to the development of the park. The park has been designed to be a job generator for the city, as well as an economic, one of the economic engines for the city. And it's been a long time coming, and I think now we've arrived to where we're going to see some development. I would say that in most cases we're going to be able to comply with everything that's in the ACUs, in the JLUs related to the ACUs. The noise levels don't really get down to that far that we have to worry about that from the sense of where those lines were drawn. However, we may on occasion, depending on the development that is coming in there, have to come together, and the military's here, they're part of our P&Z operation. We've been doing some discussion. We need to make sure they have time to look at upcoming projects, to give them time to comment on them. And we understand that they are going to be obliged, basically by reg, to make comments about things that may or may not be compatible according to the regulation. There's not a lot of fudge factor in regulations from the military, and so there may be some comments where, well, this doesn't meet exactly the reg. So I think up front there could be occasions where we have that, especially in, again, I'll repeat it, in the coverage, the 40% coverage versus 20%, and the number of people that they want to have per acre. And I'm sure we'll hear some comments on that in a forthcoming project. But I don't know how we can escape where we find ourselves here. And like I said, the Park of Commerce was established in 1975. And before all of us probably here were thinking about getting involved with the city. So that's just something I wanted to bring out. It's kind of the fly in the ointment kind of issue that we do have, and it's a difficult issue because we value the air base. We want to keep on good standing there and follow the rules with the air base as well. We have this one little glitch on the back half. I keep diminishing the APZ, but the back half of APZ2, there, the accident potential zone 2. So with that, as we move forward, these are some things. I will say we have done some other things that are restricting. That, you know, the development group for the 100 acres wanted to raise the height level in one of the areas, which we said no. It was still within the tolerance of the JLU study, but we decided to put it back to 65 feet rather than 120 feet, and they agreed to that, and they've been very cooperative. So everybody's trying to work around this little bump we got in APZ2. So
thank you. And we do recognize that the study is a recommendation. I think we should go ahead and receive it. But I think that we're going to try to work as hard as possible to work within the joint land use study to be in compliance as much as is humanly possible. I think we are fortunate in the fact that the Park of Commerce lies within the lower half of the APZ2, which is the least restrictive of all of the zones. So I think it's the least restrictive of all the accident potential zones. So I think we're in pretty good footing and pretty good standing there. And, you know, in listening to, as we were selling the Park of Commerce and listening to others and what's coming up, I think it's a very encouraging on what is coming to the Park of Commerce. And I think so far I don't think there's going to be many objections. I think for the most part it's going to be good. I think that the complaints will be very few and far between as we try to work together with our neighbor and be a good neighbor to the base, as well as continue to generate this economic engine that the Park of Commerce is. And certainly, we sold the Park of Commerce for development, and we certainly can't sell 100 acres and then tell people they can't develop the land that they just bought. So we must work together with our neighbor and be a good neighbor, but we must also be realistic and understand that we must allow development to go on with that base. And I think 40% is actually very reasonable. It's very, very reasonable. So let's move forward.
Can I ask a question here?
Certainly.
I guess I'll address this to Kurt. The real estate disclosure, is that just for new development, or is that for resale? I think that might be a huge nightmare trying to monitor that.
Certainly for new, and even in the sale of the Park of Commerce, there were disclaimers in there about the noise factor and the relationship to the air base and the racetrack. Resales present a problem because it's hard to control. You know, knowing when you bought. We can put in our ordinances that if you resell, and you're in an area that has some kind of restriction.
Who's going to monitor that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we can monitor it. It'd only be coming up as an exception if someone said, I didn't know, the other person said you should have known, it's an ordinance. And
the way I see it, the only way you can monitor it is to have the lending companies withhold funds unless that's part of the closing packet. I know there's several title company owners in here, but it would be to me it'd be a nightmare, just a total nightmare.
You know, once again, and I think I'm in quite agreement with Councilman Waldman. When I purchase something, I have to perform my own due diligence, and I want to know if I want to know what the schools are like, I'm certainly going to want to know if there's an Air Force base or a racetrack or whatever. It's certainly up to me to do my homework to find out what's in the vicinity. So I think that I would be very careful about placing restrictions or putting some type of onus regulations upon people when they sell their property. I mean, it's my responsibility to do my homework when I purchase something. So I think we want to maintain reason. And again, this is a recommendation. But thank you for that, Ms. Waldman.
And I think that, like we were saying, we just had a little conference quickly. It's a recommendation, and the process, how it works, needs to be worked out a little more definitively. Whether we can put it in where it come up on the title search, that there is something that you need to look at there or be aware of. We'd have to work that out and see how that would proceed.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council on this item? Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The approval of, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? And move it. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Weiss.
Quasi-judicial public hearings. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment on any of these items, please indicate the item number you'd like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentation on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish either to be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the counsel to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Section 2591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose the ex parte communications concerning any items on the agenda.
Richard, I do. I've had quite a few discussions actually on A and B. A lot of discussions with many people on this item, including the military, including the applicant, people in the community. So yes, I've had many discussions.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, I must also disclose that I've had conversations with the applicant about this property.
Which item?
I believe both A and B, if I'm reading correctly here tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further? Okay. At this time, the clerk will swear in any persons who wish to testify in any quasi-judicial item.
Please stand and raise your right hand. I state your name. Hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Item A is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat approval for Speedway Commerce Park on approximately 14 acres of land within the Homestead Park of Commerce, located north of Park of Commerce Boulevard, southwest 366th Street, and west of southwest 142nd Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion. I move it. It's been properly moved by Councilwoman Lobos and seconded by the Vice Mayor. We'll now open the public hearing, and I'd like to hear staff report. Staff report.
Yes, this project is a 14-acre parcel. Is in the Park of Commerce. Is in the Homestead DRI. Is in the PUD, and at this time, the staff recommends it to move forward.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to present? Council members, open the floor for any questions or comments for the applicant, or any questions or comments for staff?
I just have a question for staff, Mayor Bob. And this is just a question. In reading this through, I noticed that a report for a meeting prepared for October 31st, it described the T-plat as 13.5 acres, and on the front we have an approval for 14 acres. What happened?
It's 13.5 plus or minus.
That's why we say approximately. It's only earlier.
That's what we say approximately in the earlier packages.
Some of the, Councilman Lobos, some of the earlier reports and iterations of the tentative plat, oftentimes the acreage, depending on whether it's gross or not gross, is within that slight variation of that range. And so it's approximately almost 14 acres, just short of 14 acres. So we put approximately 14 in the resolution to make sure that we're safe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council? I have to tell you, I'm very excited about this project. It is so beautiful. I don't know if anybody can see it out there, but this is going to be a real amazing step up for the City of Homestead, and it's exactly the kind of project that you want to see in the Park of Commerce. And as we just heard a report on the Joint Land Use Study, something like this fits perfectly within APZ2. So I'm very excited about that, and I think this is exactly what we're looking for. I'm sure it's what the military is looking for as well. So I'm very excited about this, and I certainly encourage and that we move forward with this. Any comments? Yes.
Mayor, I just need to state for the record and make sure that the clerk has two letters that were entered into the record from the Air Force. One addressed specifically for this project, 2007-59, but more specifically for the site plan. But those would need to be entered into the record to make sure that they're part of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments from the audience? This public comment? Please come to the microphone if you'd like to have public comment. Good evening, Colonel Daly.
Good evening, Mayor Bell and Councilman, men and women. I'm Colonel Dennis Daly from Homestead Air Reserve Base, and I'm representing the 42nd Fighter Wing, the Air Base, and the Air Force Reserve Command. First and foremost, for Mr. Ivey also, if we could just back up a little bit, the Park of Commerce was established in 1975, but the base was established in 1942. So if 65 years of being here is good enough, can we just stop now and move forward? But overall, I think that the proposal is a fabulous one. We think that this type of construction fits very well into APZ2 and the ACUS criteria. So we think it's a win-win opportunity very clearly for the community and the military. So we like that. And we also like the type of follow-on business or enterprise or industry that could bring as well. It does fit, again, well within the ACU's guidelines, and the city staff has verified that. We'd also like to remind the community, as well as everyone, and especially the new commissioners, that the base is a $200 million contributor to the local economy. That we provide $100 million in contracts each year and $100 million in salaries. That we employ 2,400 people, about 80% of those living and working in the local area. That they're highly skilled jobs. Median income for those jobs are $50,000 or greater. So, we're the second largest employer in this part of the county except for the school district. So we take things like this very seriously, and we're very happy to see this type of development come. We feel that encroachment, as we heard that word used earlier, anytime that we hear about encroachment on the base or the military mission here, that may very well prevent expansion of our mission in the future. And that, just for the record, for the last, for the years from 2004 to 2009, our base mission will have expanded 500 people during that time. So that's a huge economic impact, again, to the local community. Of note, we sent a letter from Colonel Falcon, the installation commander, to the city and the mayor. And there's just one part of the note that I would like to read into the record. And that's a very simple request, and we feel that it doesn't have a major impact in any part of this request, this project, or what's going to happen in the Park of Commerce right now. But that we ask to set an overall occupancy limit for this 3.6-acre parcel, specifically just where the museum is, that would prevent more than 180 people from being on site on a consistent or regular basis. And what we mean by that is just strictly that on a consistent, regular basis, meaning more so than not, Monday through Friday, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, however you would define it, that we don't put more than 180 people there on a consistent time frame as well, like 8 hours a day.
At one time? And Colonel, when you say 180 people, you mean 180 at one time?
Exactly. That we limit the occupancy to that 3.6-acre parcel where the museum is to simply 180 people. And that's on a consistent basis. Now, we realize that during a race week or a special event, there could be 300 or 500 people there. We don't care. All we care about is the consistent and regular nature that people out there exposed to this. We feel this is very important for two reasons. One is it allows us to color that parcel as low intensity or low density, which means that it's not an encroachment issue at all. It complies. And the importance of this is that it does go over the construction area ratio or the floor area ratio of 0.2 that we recommend. But if the density remains low in people, we still don't have an issue with it. So the Air Force is looking for the manner to keep the area safe in one of two ways, either by keeping the building fairly small or by the density being low. If the density is always low, we never have an issue with this situation. So density, as we define it, is defined at 50 people or less per acre per project. Very simple way to look at it. This is 3.6 acres. We'd look at 180 people max. We feel that's enforceable, monitorable, and it really does suit us to keep this encroachment area or keep this marked as a low type intensity area, not encroachment at all. So it's a simple request. The letter was signed by Colonel Falcon, the wing commander, and then I can explain that further if there's other questions.
Thank you very much, Colonel. I think you've expressed it very, very well. Thank you so much. Any further comments? Any further public comments?
Let me just...
Let's let public comment finish.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Colonel John Thompson, U.S. Army retired, attorney for the applicant. In the Army, we didn't have these federal problems. We had artillery shells going off. We feel we have a very wonderful, as you pointed out, the picture of the building that we intend to build. And in that building, we have a restaurant, and the restaurant has, 140 tables? 80 seats. Well, 80 seats, and that complies with the state law for the kind of restaurant that we need to operate to make the museum successful. And there may be a time or two where you will have the maximum number of people present, maybe even a few more. I know my son is a police officer, and he goes to parties and is a police officer where parties have 150 people or more, and then more than 150, they have to have 2 police officers, and so everybody kind of fudges. And they say, well, we're going to have a party with 80 people. So 150 show up, who cares? We're not trying to do that. But we're going to tell you that with the restaurant in operation and with some special functions that go with a speedway commerce area, we're going to have cars there and people and interest, and we're going to go over the 180 on occasion. That means that probably we would average 100 during all hours of operation of the facility. But how are you going to monitor the 180? Close it down and stop it? I don't think so. But I think we're aware of the Air Force's concern, but I'd hate to have us limited to a number. We'll just work with you and keep the operation at the level I think that you'll be pleased. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Burgess had a question for Colonel Daly.
Well, I'm just a point of clarification. So if the applicant's restaurant, say they average between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., 220 people.
The restaurant is 80 seats.
Well, they said, okay, 40 tables, 80 people. But then they've got 100 or 200 other people that are milling around looking at the cars and stuff during peak hours. That's okay. You're just looking for an average.
Actually, the very thing we're looking for is some kind of comment in the zoning approval that says this museum and this site is capped at 180 people for regular and routine consistent use. According to your own specifications from the Planning and Zoning Department, using your own parking criteria, we calculate them to be 213 people right now. So all we're asking for is a cap just a little bit lower than what the max capacity that your own Planning and Zoning Committee allowed for now. Again, we realize that there'll be events, there'll be things, that lunch will be served, and we have no quarrel with that. It's as simple as if we see 180 or less on that one parcel, and that's in some kind of verbiage in the grant approval or the zoning approval, then that allows us to consider that as low encroachment and move on from there, and then the next proposal that comes up can be considered separately. We're not trying to set a negative precedent for future development. However, if we don't cap this, what we have set is a precedent for future development that disregards the ACUs to some intent and purpose. By allowing this to move forward without a per person or per site cap on it at 180, we have kind of opened the door to more encroachment, I feel, in the future. So to answer your question specifically, if there's occasional times, and occasional is not consistent, it's occasional. There'll be race week, there'll be various events, there'll be sponsors, there'll be great events happening out there. We're very supportive of this, and we don't mind that. The Air Force has no issue with that. It's strictly if we have 180 people or more working out there every day, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, something like a consistent business use. That's what we're more concerned about. So we feel it doesn't impact what type of operation that the applicant's trying to have. We're very supportive of it. We don't think that this in any way limits them. We understand there'll be more people out there at different times. And again, it's not like there's going to be the Air Force police out here snooping or watching or anything.
It's strictly, you have your counter and click the thing.
It's nothing like that. It's strictly a matter that when we go to consider a parcel as encroachment or not, we will simply look at how many people is allowed by ordinance or grant or application approval to be there. It's very simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Yes, Ms. Waltman.
Colonel Daly, I need you back there.
Yes.
The site itself is going to be on 3.60 acres, correct?
As far as we know, yes.
That's the site plan.
Yes. That's the museum site, I believe.
James would like to answer the question.
We're getting a little bit off track, and this is the public hearing for the tentative plat, which is just the lines and delineations of a 14-acre parcel divided into lots for the Speedway Park of Commerce. I would ask that if you're going to continue with that line of questioning for the Colonel and with staff, that we defer it to the next item, which is the site plan, which is very site-specific to what we're talking about right now.
Why don't we go ahead and take a vote on this one, and then go ahead with carry on the conversation?
Whatever your pleasure is.
Okay. Any further comments or questions from council? We'll move into the next.
I have a question next go
down. You're first up. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B, resolution, there I go again.
It's okay.
James.
Resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting site plan approval for the redevelopment of, actually, there's one change. It should be 56,000 square feet. Industrial building for motorsports-related activities, a museum, and related restaurant on approximately 3.6 acres of land located within the Speedway Commerce Park, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. That change in the title, a reduction in the square footage, is because the earlier iterations and drawings were at a much higher square footage, and that's since been reduced since it's before you.
I'll entertain a motion. It's been properly moved and seconded. Now, Ms. Waldman.
Thank you. I've lost Colonel David.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. The site itself is only 3.60 acre, correct?
Correct.
And it's in the corner of the 14 acres.
I believe so.
So can't we take into consideration that we have 14 acres?
No.
No? Why not?
It's a specific proposal for a specific facility. And if the city's willing to take into account the other 14 acres, we could probably do that too. I'm just kidding. Overall,
Yes. I know you are, by the way.
Overall, it's a good question. And overall, no, we can't. It's for the specific application for this facility.
Even though if I'm just guessing, for race weekend or whatever, they probably would have a big tent, and it would probably be on the other site besides the 3.60 acres.
Really, again, it doesn't really come into play with us. We strictly look at the fact that if we can maintain an intensity or a density of 50 people or less per acre on the average for that facility, that it says low intensity or low density, and that we don't have an encroachment problem. If we go over that 50, if we go to 185, 190, 213 as it's designed now, well then we color that red. That's an encroached area, and then that's it forever.
I thought in the beginning, it was stated that there were 80 tables, or is it only, how many tables were in the restaurant? 80 seats. Okay.
And restaurant is actually, in our letter, we also stated that restaurant and minor retail use is acceptable to the AQ standards with notes, and those notes come into the density as long as it remains low density. So the restaurant is a fine occupation or a fine establishment there in concert with the museum. We think it's all great. We think his proposal's great. We're just asking for some type of language that would say, at this facility, 180 persons or less, on continuous and regular basis.
Thank you.
Any comments from staff? James, Sherry?
I just wanted to mention that the difference from Councilwoman Lobo, the half acre was a little bit discussion between utility and dedication of right-of-way for utility. So, originally they asked for about 25 feet on the northbound, and we deducted on the previous, and then there was an agreement between utility, and they came and reduced it to 10 feet. So there was a credit given back to the acreage again. So that's where the difference was.
Thank you, Sherry.
We actually solve a number problem if you just rounded it up to 4 acres. We would have no issue. It wouldn't be red flagged. I say it's 4. Any further comments or questions from council? Any further comments from the public? I'll now close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item C, a resolution. Item C, James.
Resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida granting final plat approval for the East Homestead Fire Rescue Station within the Villages of Homestead Development of Regional Impact, located at the southeast corner of Palm Drive and Valencia Gardens Drive, as legally described in Exhibit A, consisting of 0.71 net acres, providing for an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move it.
I second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item D.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida granting a replat approval of a final plat for Villa Portofino East, located southeast of the Homestead extension of the Florida Turnpike, east of 152nd Avenue and north of 312th Street, as legally described in Exhibit A, an approximately 11.05 acre site within the Villa Portofino East Plan Unit Development, and providing for an effective date.
I'll entertain. It's been properly moved.
I'll second.
And it's been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Comments or questions from council? Comments from the public? Any comments from staff?
Madam Mayor.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the public hearing for the quasi-judicial items. Next is legislative matters.
It's the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the police officer's retirement plan at Article 2 of Chapter 22.5 Retirement Plans of the City Code by amending Section 22.527 Deferred Retirement Option Plan, dropped by amending Section 22.561 Retirement Requirements, to revise the eligibility requirements for normal retirement and early retirement, providing for severability, inclusion of code and effective date. There's a second reading and public hearing.
I move it.
I second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments from council? Any staff report on this item? Any comments from the public? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Were you asking for comments on this?
Yes.
Okay. Basically what this is that there are at least three retirement dates for the police officers' retirement plan. And what this does is, and we also have a drop, deferred retirement option plan. And we had to clarify the dates vis-a-vis when your 8-year drop started. So what this does clarifies that the latest date you take for your retirement is when you start your drop plan. For example, if you could have taken it earlier, and the way it was before and the way it was interpreted, if you took it earlier, for example, 20 years and out, your 8 years started then, even though you may not have claimed that as being where you wanted to retire, but the time started clicking because that was the first time you could retire. So it wasn't intended to be that way. It's at the latest time, or at the time you choose to retire, start your 8 is really an easier way to say it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I thought that was clear.
Any comments from council?
No.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Excuse me, we need to open up a public hearing.
Oh, I thought I did. Any comments from the public? Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B.
This is a follow-up item on the presentation that was made earlier. The resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, acknowledging completion of the Homestead Air Reserve-based joint land use study, providing for an effective date.
I move it.
I second. It's been moved and probably seconded. Any comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Thank you. Item C.
Council consideration of potential final action concerning the mayor's proposed appointee to fill the council vacancy, seat 1.
Thank you. I'll take it from here. Yes, I imagine that's why we have such a great full house tonight. Wow, I had an amazing task that was set before me, and a task I must admit I didn't choose and I did not ask for, but a task nonetheless that I took very, very seriously. I had 6 applicants that were actually very, very, very good, very wonderful applicants. I personally interviewed each and every applicant. completely listened to them, what they had to say, and I put a lot of weight in the personal interview, activity within the community, and I have a letter that's before all of council that was emailed as well as is on the dais, and I will also have one prepared for the media should they choose. And my choice for the Northwest seat is Tim Nelson. What a high caliber that we had, and let me tell you, I want to give you a little background of what I do know, and I'm hoping that we can move this forward expeditiously. I would love to get this seat filled, and get committee assignments before you. But I briefly came into contact with Mr. Nelson and a group of citizens from Westbury Estates many years ago when they were fighting the Redland Reef Project. And the Redland Reef Project was a high-density housing that was going to go right behind Westbury Estates. And this group with Mr. Nelson and a group from Westbury Estates attended every planning and zoning meeting. They were very participatory. They were very active. They showed up at all the council meetings, and they actually stopped the Redland Reef Project from coming in behind them with this high-density housing, and Mr. Nelson was involved in that as well. I've seen him at many, many council meetings as he sits back there very, very quietly. He just kind of comes in, sits down, watches the meetings, and then just exits. And he's very, very well informed on everything that's happening in the community. Totally good businessman, been in business for many, many, many years. Just very high caliber, no conflicts of interest whatsoever. And what really did it for me the most was the man's heart for his community, and that is what I look for. When we had a walkthrough with Lowe's through the new Lowe's last week, and it was very, very interesting because the general manager of the new Lowe's, as well as the district manager, and everybody was in, and he said, when we get applicants before us, the first thing we look at is their personality and their heart, because we can always train them. And he said, but we can't give them personality, we can't give them heart. And I thought that was very, very interesting, very, very telling, that it's really important that they have a heart. And when I interviewed Tim, it was so clear to me what a heart he had for his community and concern. And I asked all the applicants a very simple question, and there really wasn't a wrong answer for this question. I just really wanted to know how everybody felt. And I asked all of the applicants if they were going to run in 2 years, and all of them said yes, except for one. And one said a lot can happen in 2 years, but pretty much yes. And Tim Nelson was the only one who said to me, well, that just really depends on whom you appoint, because if the person you appoint does a really, really good job, I'd rather support them in 2 years and then not run, but support them. And all the other applicants, and there was nothing wrong with the other answer, absolutely yes. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just struck to me that this was a person who had the heart for the community and the best interest of the community, at heart. So while all the applicants were wonderful, and I see that you're all here, and let me tell you something, it was very, very tough for me. And as I said before, this is not a task I chose. And one of the first things we are going to do is enact charter review to fix this. So no future mayor ever has to have this task put upon them, that this would be done by the community. This should have been chosen by election, not by me, but it was thrust upon me, and it was a task I took very, very seriously. And so I put the name on the table, and I would love to have a motion in that favor to go ahead and select Tim Nelson for the Northwest seat. Thank you very much, and I'll open the floor. Actually, I'll entertain a motion. I move. I second. It's been properly moved and second. I'd like to open up the council for discussion.
Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Burgess, you may.
This is nothing personal to the mayor or Mr. Nelson, as I've never even met the gentleman. Let me explain my thought process on this and the way that I've come to my conclusions, if I could. The first thing I did was to look at everyone's resume, read them thoroughly, and research them to the best of my capabilities without infringing upon anybody's rights. I looked at their education, their civic involvement, and the things that they have done around the city that I know about or have been told about through other parties. Last thing I did was I went out to my constituents. As we all know, I represent the Keysgate area. I asked all 11 of them to give me their opinions. Some chose not to, some chose to. They also were able to look at the resumes as they were public information at the time of my request. I made sure that this was legal and that everything was on above board. Because of the criteria that I put in place for myself and that I asked my constituents to give me, I have to respectfully disagree with the mayor's choice to fill the Northwest seat. Like I said, this is nothing personal. It's just what I feel is right for the city. What I would like to see is us to be able to have an open discussion, either at a special call meeting or a CAL meeting, where we can discuss the applicants amongst ourselves and what we feel are strong points and weaknesses for each and every one. So at this time, I would express my opinion that I will not be able to vote for this gentleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll reserve my comments for after everybody else's comments. Any other comments from council? Great. I would like to go ahead and move forward. And
Mayor Bell, I'm
yes.
sorry, I just did my finger there. Thank you. This is really tough because I don't know Mr. Nelson, and I know you're a good man from what I read in your resume and what Mayor Bell has said. But I consider this the most important vote that I'm going to cast in the next 2 years. This is a vote of the voice for the people of Homestead, not just for the Northwest section, but for the entire city. This is huge, and it's a tough place to be, not only for the mayor but for all of us. I know I pulled code today, and I know we can have a CAL meeting or a special call meeting where we can hear Mr. Nelson speak and hear your views and ask your questions. But you know, it's so hard for me because you have to put friendship aside, you have to put everything aside, you have to do what you feel is the right thing for the city. So I have to agree with Mr. Burgess.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whatman. Actually, this was done in the most impartial way possibly that you could possibly do it, done very impartially. And the task was put upon me, and so I'm bringing forth a recommendation. And if the recommendation is turned down, then we need to start the process all over again. And that means we have to go back out and open up the process for more applications. So, I mean, I think that this was, you know, this, according to ordinance, this was put in my lap, and I took it very, very seriously. And I want to say something. I think it's very curious, and Vice Mayor, I'm going to, since you brought it up, that you polled your delegates on the east side. I think that's very interesting. And
I was voted in by them, so why would I not ask the people that I'm voted in by what their opinion is?
Well, because they voted for you as a representative to vote. They already voted. They already elected you once.
You need to follow what the people have.
Well, like one of the comments I have as well is that then why wasn't the Northwest polled?
You live over there. I don't know why you didn't go ask them. I asked the people that I represent who they would like to see in office, and I was given a name that was different than what you brought forward this evening.
Well, first of all, I don't appreciate your tone. Not at all. And
we are voted in by the people, and you're telling me not to go out and talk to the people that have voted me into office. I don't understand your tone when you're telling me I shouldn't have gone and talked to them.
I never said you shouldn't go and talk to it. I thought it was curious that you would poll.
You had expressed to a citizen in Homestead your dismay that I have asked anybody about this.
I think it was inappropriate to poll when this was a decision that was thrust upon this council. I do. I think that was very inappropriate. Any further comments from council? Ms. Lobos, Ms. Sierra? We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
No.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
No.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
No.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Okay, the motion fails.
Okay, we will have to start the process all over again. And the seats that I had put committee assignments before you, so committee assignments will not be given out yet because we have not had the Northwest seat filled. Let me say, I want to say that I think that this is the process. This is part of the democratic process, and this is what happened. I think this was wrong. and I think that that's up to the voters to deal with, but I think this was wrong, the way this was done tonight. And it's my opinion, and I think that this was absolutely done very, we did the process. It was given to me to handle, and I did, and I did not choose that somebody vacated their seat, and that was the way it was. And so this process was done appropriately, decently, and in order, so this is a very sad moment as far as I'm concerned. But we will move on. I'll now open the floor to public comments, and we'll start the process all over again. We will start the process all over again, and people can reapply, and we'll go through the same process again, so the seat will stay vacant for now. Any public comments at this time? Business from the manager?
Mayor, I have a couple of things. With the holiday coming up, City Hall will be closed on Monday, December 24th, and Tuesday, December 25th. There is no garbage or trash pickup on Tuesday, December 25th. However, if your pickup day is on Tuesday, 25th, it will be collected on Wednesday, the 26th. So leave it out there, and they'll get to it the next day. They don't call me. Just kidding, just kidding. City Hall will be closed also on Tuesday, January 1st. However, garbage and trash will be collected for the new year as scheduled. We also want to let the community know that Lowe's will open for business on Friday, December 21st. We made this announcement. We've worked with Lowe's. They've been a very community-oriented company, and they haven't even opened their doors yet. They're very good to work with. So we encourage everyone, December 21st, they're opening up, and it's a very nice place that they've built there, and I recommend everyone make the opening. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick?
I had some notes wrote down thinking I was going to congratulate the Northwest City appointee, but things didn't go that way. But just to make a note on that, I think it has to be a way that we can either get a representative for each candidate to speak for them and for them to speak for themselves, so that way that all the council people get to know who we're voting for or not voting for, because I really don't know any of the candidates, so it's hard for me to say yes or no. But and then appointing somebody in a seat that the community should vote for, it's a real hard predicament for us to be in. And last week it was a very busy but productive week. Had a lot of meetings, a lot of tree lighting ceremonies, ribbon cuttings. So, but on that note, everything has been pretty good for me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sierra.
Good evening. I would like to make a comment on what Mr. McCormick just said, and I understand what Councilman McCormick just said in reference to getting to know the candidates. I actually took it upon myself to call each of the candidates and speak to them over the phone since we had been given their resumes. And I think it was the responsibility of each council person to take a moment and do that. I understand the position that Mayor Bell has been put in. It's a very difficult situation in the sense that she was asked, or basically she had to do exactly what she did this evening. And it saddens me that most of my council people up here didn't take the time to get to know the different applicants. And we could have moved forward with our committees, which is very important to everything that we need to continue doing for our city. But that being said, I will like to say that Officer Hernandez, the gentleman that brought us the extra turkeys, will be bringing us toys. And I'm very excited because this is the first time that I have had direct contact with an officer from Miami-Dade County who's sharing what Dade County is doing for the city, is sharing it with the city of Homestead. And that's because he is a resident here in Homestead and he wants to help out the city. One of the things I wanted to mention about Lowe's is, out of their 150 employees, 120 of those employees are residents of Homestead. Of the remaining residents, 27 of those are actually coming from other Lowe's, and 5 actually reside here in our neighboring area. So these are people that were going to Miami Lakes to work at the Lowe's way over there, the one on I-95, correct? So they're very happy to be local and working locally here with us. The breakfasts at Northgate and the breakfast with Santa Claus, absolutely amazing. What a beautiful job Parks and Recs did with that. Thank you very much. My family thoroughly enjoyed it. I've met with Commissioner Kitty Sorensen, and we have some things in place. And I have also been meeting with Superintendent of Region 6 for Education. But until the committees don't get assigned, there's only so much I can do as far as education is concerned. And also, I enjoyed greatly the opening of the bus line. This is amazing. This can take our people all the way from Florida City all the way to downtown in one fast motion, not having to sit in that traffic or waste that gas. So thank you very much. It's been a very productive week.
Thank you very much. Ms. Waldman.
Thank you. Just so all of you know, I did, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I did ask staff if it was appropriate for me to meet with each candidate. And after discussion, that wasn't the course that I was able to take. So just so, you know, just Ms. Sierra, I just want you to know that, you know,
You were told no?
that it wasn't appropriate.
That it was not.
So I know charter says that you can come to a COW meeting. I don't know it by heart, but and speak on behalf of yourself, and I think that would be the best thing to do. That's just my opinion. You know, we're up here to vote from our heart and to vote the way we think is the right way to vote. So everybody has difference of opinions, and we'll always have difference of opinions. But on that note, I just want to say that I've had a very busy 2 weeks. Not going to go into a lot of things, but my most precious moment was December 6th when the Little Angels gave out over $31,000 at the Capri restaurant to children with special needs. And it was so rewarding and happy, and we are going to be distributing toys throughout the week to children, and it's just made my heart full. So I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever your religion is, and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Mr. Burgess.
Thank you. I received a phone call the other day from Ms. Lila Batiste, who represents San Remo Homes, and they were here several weeks ago. And the reason I got the phone call is because I was the one that had moved forward a motion for 7.5 homes versus their 9.7, I believe, is the number rounded off. What they would like to see, if the council would entertain, and I told her I had no idea that I could even second it, but I was asked to bring it forward, so I am, a motion for reconsideration of their project at the number of 8 units per acre versus 7.5. So I guess what I need to do is open it up for a discussion to see if there's enough people up here that feel like maybe they could work with 8 units per acre for this project, or leave it at 7.5 as they walked out of the room that night with the vote of 6-0. So at this time, I guess, and if the attorney would help me, I would say...
Right, it's up to the mayor as to whether she wants a loud discussion, but I think the request, and Vice Mayor discussed this with us, if he wants to place something on the agenda for a motion for reconsideration at the next meeting, I think that the thought that we talked about was if there's not some support for that, then there's no reason to waste the time, but it's not necessary that you could have discussion if you'd like to on whether there's any support for that at all, in which case we wouldn't bother putting it on an agenda, or you could just wait to hear the motion for reconsideration at the next meeting, which the Vice Mayor would have placed on the agenda. So it could be done either way.
I'd rather hear it at the next meeting.
Okay, so if the clerk could place that on the agenda, we'll talk with you about the notification.
One other thing I'd like to do is I attended the grand opening of Fire Station 65 over there, and while I was there, Julio, I've gotten a couple of requests. They're looking for a stoplight. I know it's in the works. but they were wondering if we might have any kind of time frame that we might be able to pass along to them. And then the gentleman, the captain there, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, was also wondering if and knowing, I guess, that the project is in consideration, but the paving of the median there so that they can have an easier transgress back and forth across it instead of bumping up and down and four-wheeling there, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, both of those issues are actually under the jurisdiction of the county. We're dealing with the county right now, and they've been receptive to our request to take a look at the request from the fire department. In terms of the light, the same issue plays out for both the crossing there on the median and the light. So they're both working on it, and hopefully, I mean, they do understand the need for, it didn't take a lot of explanation on my part to let them know what was needed there. So they're willing to work with us, so hopefully they'll be able to do something.
And then I also had a letter forwarded to me from the president of Northgate and their delegate, Kevin Sullivan, and I'm not sure, Kurt, if we have any kind of update on we were looking at the possibility of his concern of paving, extending the sidewalk over there along Kingman when there isn't one. And last night, once again, I saw a family pushing 2 baby carriages where there isn't one, so there definitely is a need. If it's feasible or not, I know you were looking into that. Maybe I could get an update on that.
I'll give you, I'll have Julio, I think, ready to give an update on that. We looked at both you doing the concrete sidewalk and the asphalt sidewalk, but saying that this is a contractor responsibility, we'll be taking on the extra expense if we do this, but we still looked at doing that. Julio, you have the report on that.
Yeah, well, basically we looked at, we did some cost estimates to figure out how much it would cost to do it. The numbers came out quite high, in the range of $36,000 to do the work. And that would be just doing an asphalt paving, not a concrete one. So we're actually trying to see if there's ways that we can reduce that somewhat, but at the time now, those are the numbers that we're getting, and they look a little high. Basically, material costs are really up now in terms of fill, and there is a large portion of that needs to be filled to the adequate elevation. But we are trying to figure out if there's another way of doing it that won't be as costly.
Thank you. Yeah, it is with no lights over there. And the amount of walk traffic that we have along that road now going back and forth to Publix in that area, it's becoming a hazard. Thank you, Julio. And I just want to say that I had a great time at the employee luncheon the other day. It was a pleasure to meet some people that you don't normally get to see here in Chambers and get to interact with them, and had a great time there and a great lunch, and it looks like they enjoyed themselves, especially those that want a day off with pay. So to them, congratulations, and let me wish everybody a happy holiday season once again. So thank you.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Well, I guess at one point or another we all get to go last. So just to comment again on the stuff that has already been talked about, I also attended the Lowe's private tour that was held for us, and I enjoyed myself and would recommend that all of you make it out to the grand opening on the 21st. And during the discussion, they were comparing themselves to Home Depot, and towards the end I said, wait, there's a big difference. They're in Florida City and you're in Homestead, so Lowe's is the Homestead store, and we would just appreciate your support for them. I also met with Commissioner Sorensen, and the main topic of discussion for me was just a better cooperation and better partnership. I told her that many times we would like representation on the county level when we deal with issues with several departments, and she pledged that she would support us. So hopefully going forward that we'll see that support from her. The employee luncheon as well was wonderfully attended. I was so happy to see so many employees there, have the ability, the chance to meet so many of them, as I'm sure I will as I make my rounds, continue to meet you and see you and get to better know you. I also have a comment about the Northwest appointment, and like Councilwoman Waldman and everybody else has stated, it is a difficult task that was put before us. During the campaign, I did not know the process that was actually going to take place, but when I was told that it was going to be a political appointment by Mayor Bell, I resigned to the fact that that's what she was elected to do. The mayor was elected to take on certain tasks, and this was one of the tasks that she was given. She gave us a letter where she explained her appointment, and I supported her on that. we will go forward with the COW meeting and discussions. Let me tell you, not only was that a political appointment, all the statements made on here are all, just opinions. I do not see us coming to an agreement or a consensus on one particular candidate. Based on what? A resume? The campaign trail was the place to where we could see, for myself, judging on just resumes, that just doesn't do it. It does not do it to see what kind of candidate, what kind of person would be the best councilman. At this point, I look forward to the discussions that will take place. I will continue to take the same position, which is to support Mayor Bell on this task that she was given. I appreciate all the input, and I just apologize to Mr. Tim Nelson. Like everybody else said, it's no reflection on you. It's just everybody else had a different opinion that was formed not at the time of resumes, but before then. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Lobos. And believe you me, I do believe when we talk about a political appointment, this was politics, basically. So it is definitely no reflection upon you, Mr. Nelson. I was given the task to interview you, and I did, as well as I did all 6. Unfortunately, the council did not trust my decision-making at this particular time. Hopefully, within the next couple of years, they will. This was the time, I think, to show unity, and it just did not happen. So I just I'm sorry for you about that, and we will have to move forward, and hopefully we will get some unity within this council. And I was looking for that unity within your appointment, and I thought we could be a wonderfully unified council. So anyway, my condolences to you on this. I'm very troubled by the fact that everybody did have the opportunity to discuss to talk to you, or to talk to all of the 6 candidates, as well as to get to know you and to know all of the 6 candidates. And that opportunity, anybody can pick up the phone and talk to anybody. So the fact that say that I didn't know them or did know them is just, to me, is just an excuse. It's actually inexcusable, because it's up to us to do our homework. And so with that, and it's up to us to trust. Once in a while we have to trust people placed before us and trust the voters as well. So again, I do apologize to you, Mr. Nelson. I think you put your application in very good faith. And I think it's interesting, because when we talk about resumes, those that talk about the resumes, there's nowhere in the charter when you run for office, when you run for office, does it say you have to have a degree, or you have to have this type of degree. So when we talk about resumes, or we talk about certain master's degrees or this degrees, because I heard it, that would disqualify many of us sitting up here right now, so including myself. So disqualify me from being the mayor. So that being said, I think there was a great missed opportunity here tonight, and I'm sorry that the council voted the way that they did, but it is what it is. So moving on. I have been given many opportunities and have been at many speaking engagements for the last 2 weeks, many speaking engagements, including the busway opening. I was a guest speaker at the Business Development Council in Prime. I attended a press conference today in downtown Miami on the economic impact of the racetrack. Also, the fire station grand opening, and spoke, and it was a wonderful grand opening. Also, did about 8-minute news, an 8-minute spot for Channel 6 News, and it was really great. It's good press, really been good press for the city of Homestead, as well as a feature article in Daily Business Review on the Park of Commerce and on the growth in the city of Homestead. But the city has gotten some really good media, and I just embrace that, and I'm very happy about that. One of the things I wanted to discuss very briefly on a very somber note. In the past, and I was going to open with this, but I decided not to. In the past 3 weeks, I've been to 3 funerals. And one was to a wonderful woman who was my age who died of Lou Gehrig's disease, and that was tragic enough. Then the next one was to a 24-year-old who lost his life in his own home, Sean Taylor. Some thugs came into his house. And then the last one was Missy Halderman, who was a very good friend of my daughter Jenna, one of her closest friends, and was participatory in my campaign. Was out there holding signs for me with her little girls, and she was the victim of the carjacking and where the car exploded, and that was one of my daughter's closest friends. So I just wanted to say that this is just getting crazy. Be careful out there. We must be, all the training you take, whether you had a weapon, didn't have a weapon, whether you were, alert, nobody could predict somebody would jump in your car and carjack you, and you would die and leave 2 little girls behind. So I just want everybody to please keep the Missy Holdeman family in your prayers. I'm going to be meeting with the father of the 2 little girls, and we're going to be planning some type of fund that can be set up for these little girls, for this family, to help them, maybe a college fund or some type of a trust that would be held with a local bank so that the money would have great oversight. But I just wanted you to just keep the Missy Holdeman family, and the father is Officer Yanko with the Homestead Police Department, so just keep them all in your prayers, okay? This is all weighing very heavily on my heart this last couple of weeks, and so anyway, thank you. That's it. It's not it. I'm sorry. Council committee assignments will be postponed, but Ms. Sierra, you are going to be the education chair, so go with it. You're chomping at the bit, and I really look forward to that, and we'll reserve all of that comments. And Ms. Lobo, she will be the finance chair and budget and finance chair, as well as some other great committee assignments. And we will also be appointing, I'm not going to do the EFPD board right now. I'm going to postpone that. And we have vacancy announcements with the Education Committee, Historic Preservation Board, and Planning and Zoning Board. So with those announcements said, I would say this meeting is adjourned.
Madam Mayor, I'm so sorry now that I'm appointed. I do have to, one slight thing I need to mention. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, you do.
Madam Mayor, I would like to request that the city attorneys to draft an amendment to increasing the number of committee members for the Education Committee from 11 to 15 to better serve the number of schools in need in our area. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you for just one moment. 2 things I forgot to mention. Everyone mentioned the Christmas party, but I wanted to thank HR for putting that together. It's a lot of work, and sometimes I fail to do that. Marcy and her group worked very hard putting all that together and gathering the gifts. And lastly, I also was remiss that we need to mention that Chief Roll lost his father this last week, and our prayers go out for him and his family as well.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.